All right, looks like we're live. Sorry for the slight delay, everyone. Bit of a cluster in the house. My wife and oldest daughter are heading out to New York tomorrow for a getaway, and just trying to get everything ready and packed up at the last minute. You know, that's my style. Anyway, yeah, so everybody, welcome to Gear Talk. This is episode 27. Crazy that we've been doing it this many times, but yeah, it's 27. So thank you all so much for joining. Again, I do this every other Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Really appreciate everybody showing up in the live chat. If you have questions, please make sure to tag me in your questions so that I can see it. It's really difficult to see the questions with all of the conversations happening in the live chat. But if you tag me in it, tag Back to Blading, it's easy for me to spot when I'm scanning through to answer questions. First, quick announcement, the Fitty Fitty backpacks. So Fitty Fitty backpacks are finally shipping. So we got them in last Monday, and the shops have started getting them. I shipped out all of the pre-orders, so if you haven't gotten your backpack or if you haven't gotten an email from me, please let me know. I'm not holding a grudge or anything. I probably just missed your order. So reach out to me if you didn't get an email or if you haven't gotten your bag. I know a lot of people are getting their bags. I mean, a lot of great feedback. Again, thank you all so much for the support. This was one of those projects that was another itch that I wanted to scratch. You know, we designed the bags back in 2000, probably 2003, 2002, maybe even earlier, 2001. And I loved the backpacks. I know Jess made a few different revisions throughout the years. And I saw some amazing colorways. I wanted to bring them back. We're planning on doing one color a year. This year we're starting from the bottom. Now we're here. And this is the gray and black version, which I adore. But I want to switch it up for next season. Of course, that means, you know, I'm going to change things a little bit, come out with different colorways for every year. Probably only doing one run per season. So, you know, I bring in like 100, 150 bags, and the runtime is a long time. So I think I placed the order in February, and they just got in middle of June, end of June. So that's a long order window. I don't know that I want to do another order this year, so once they're gone, they might be gone. If you haven't ordered from me, I've got a couple dozen left in stock here. Shops have them in stock as well. I know that Oak City has them in stock. I know Roller Warehouse got them in today. I know we shipped an order to Intuition. We shipped an order overseas to Loco. We have an order going to This Is Seoul. I'm packing up an order for Doshi if you're in Malaysia or Southeast Asia. And I have an order going out to Hedonscape. So there will be backpacks in Asia, in Europe, and across the US if you're interested in getting a backpack. My supplies are pretty limited, so please support a local shop if you have one, especially if you're outside of the US. These things are expensive to ship, and I don't want you to spend more money than you have to. Shops are great. They are helping me get these backpacks out to you, and you know, I couldn't be happier. All right, so first off, order of business is whenever I do Gear Talk, I always like to start and talk about my current setup. This is a weird week because I actually skated 2 different setups for Aggressive. So let me start with the setup that I had 2 weeks ago, which was the weekend after I did the last Gear Talk. So that setup was the Kuru frame, which I totally forgot I'm supposed to be sending these out to the next skater. I will send these out tomorrow. Sorry for the delay, whoever's getting them next. But I will be sending these out tomorrow. These are the Kuru frames. If you saw the video, they are a machined aluminum frame. They are cut out of a solid block of aluminum. They are a flat rocker setup. By that I mean that they are a rocker, but because the wheels are set up such a way that you can ride them almost perfectly flat. So you get a flat feeling instead of this rockered feeling. But you also get the speed and the control that you would get for, you know, riding a normal, like an Aeon, like a normal flat 4-down setup. What's cool about this is because they rockered the wheels up, kind of like the Wish frame, they can move them out a little bit and create a much better groove and avoid the UFS frame bolts. So these were really fun to skate. Again, they're on the USD 7s. These were my favorite boots to skate. Super solid, amazing fit. The liner feels great. The frames themselves, they were all right. You know, I don't know that I'm good enough to really appreciate how these frames perform. For me, I struggled a little bit on angle iron. I felt like they were fine for skating, just overall skating. They did have a slight rocker to them. The middle wheels are a little bit lower. I think these outside 60s, they still feel pretty fresh. I mean, I can still feel mold lines. So they're probably still actually 60s, but these inner 55s, I used the Conjure mini flats, which, you know, thank you, Rob, for sending them out so that I could test them out. These wheels were great, but because the shape is different than the outside wheels, I feel like I was getting that magic rocker. So whenever I was turning, like I would lean a little bit more, these two wheels would touch faster than the outside wheels, and I would kind of, it wasn't a bad feeling, it was kind of like I'm on hockey skates, so I liked the feeling, but it wasn't so great for skating transition or skating, you know, launch ramps or things like that. I like to have, you know, if not an anti-rocker setup, a more flat setup for skate park. This wasn't as much fun. Grinds felt okay. I didn't have any issues with sole grinds. They slid fine. The Royale tricks were great, especially on coping. I did struggle a little bit on the angle iron. I felt like it was very sticky, kind of crunchy. And I think that's just an aluminum thing. You know, I remember the old Senate aluminum grind plates. Remember we Fitty Fitty made some aluminum grind plates. They definitely had a different feeling than plastic on angle iron. They felt amazing on coping. And I don't know if it's just I don't know what it is. It's some physics, right? So there's something about coping. Maybe it's the material that they use for coping versus what they use for angle iron. Maybe it's the fact that it's got the angle versus the rounded. I honestly don't know. But one of those two things made a huge difference in the grinds. And I was sticking a lot doing Royales on angle iron, and it just felt gross. Doing Soul Tricks and doing Royales on coping felt great. So didn't have any issues there. Again, these frames are probably not going to come out. I know that the guy who made them is looking into making them, but they're going to be expensive if he makes them like this. I know that he's really just trying to get feedback from testers. That's why he's sending them around to all the different people. I really like them. I think that they're a very specific frame for a very specific use case. Like most aluminum frames, I think they excel at coping, and if you're skating bowls and stuff. For me, though, I don't skate enough of that to really justify spending enough on these frames, and I'm not good enough. You know, I feel like all of these frames, probably the solos, which I haven't skated, but probably the solos, you really have to be good to understand how good those frames are. It's like getting a really nice driver and you're playing golf. I mean, for me, I'm just going to whiff and, you know, it's going to end up in the water regardless of how much I spend on a club, right? So these frames were fine. I think that they're good frames for what they are. Amazing prototype, and the biggest thing is that I love people experimenting with frame technology, with wheels, with different boots, with skins, sole plates, like all of that stuff. I mean, this is a do-it-yourself sport now. We need to come up with ideas and products that make skating better for us, and we can be more unique. You can make your own grind plates. You can make your own frames, you know, backside plates, things like that. So absolutely, you know, it was a privilege to skate these frames. I'm going to send them off tomorrow. I think if you have an opportunity, if you find somebody that is testing them, give them a shot. I think you'll be surprised at how responsive they are. Grinds on some things weren't so great, but if you find the right use case, I think these could be a huge hit if he ever releases them. All right, it is hot, hot, hot in the garage today. So I have a fan on. I hope that is not too loud. I'm going to be drinking a lot of water. It reached 102 here, which in the south, 102 with humidity is like a death wish. I mean, it's the worst time. We spent the evening at the pool and just most of the day indoors. So going to be drinking lots of water and hopefully keeping the sweat at bay, but we'll see. All right. The moment you've all been waiting for. So last week I was very fortunate to be over at Oak City Skate Shop dropping off some backpacks. The next day I was told while I was there that they were expecting a shipment of Fifth Elements. The next day I drove over to drop off some wheels and get my Fifth Elements. So here they are. All right. So these are the new UFS Roces Fifth Elements. So what's to say about these? So I did a pretty thorough video detailing all of the history of these. I'm not going to go through it again. If you haven't watched the video, please check out the YouTube channel. Do a search for Fifth Element First Impressions. I get really into the background of these skates and how Roces committed to aggressive with this skate. This original skate, not this one, but the original skate. These are very different than the originals. Not in a bad way. I think the originals were great for their time, but these are a very different skate than those. So the noticeable differences, I guess the similarities. Let's start with that. Similarities, obviously the color and the style is very similar. It's got this two-tone, kind of like a patent leather shoe from like the 50s. I think it's the 50s, right? Where it's got the, the inside area. This inside area is actually a dual injection. So it's not paint. Like you get some painted Aeons that are just, red over a white boot. These are actually a different material. So it's a double injection of whatever material they use here, which means that they can make it thinner up on the lacing area. And the thinness means that the lacing area flexes. And that means that when you lace up your skates, you can get a lot tighter with laces, which is a really good feeling. I really liked the feeling of lacing these up. But at the same time, you have this thick outside shell, all this maroon area, burgundy area, I don't know what color they're calling it, but this burgundy area is nice and thick. So I didn't have any issues with feeling like the boot wasn't strong enough. I think the dual injection is a really great technology. I think you should definitely look into it if you're at all interested. The cuff, so the original Fifth Element has a higher cuff. This has a lower cuff. I thought it was fine. I didn't really do any topside tricks. I tried a few, but it's been so long since I've done topsides. And topsides aren't a natural trick for me. I didn't grow up learning topsides. I grew up learning soul tricks and frontsides and stuff. So for me, doing topsides is always a bit of a struggle. I wasn't able to do topsides with these. I know that I can, and I hope that I can give it another shot when I get out there. But yeah, it was a very difficult trick for me. The bottom of it. So this sole plate, this is from the old Volo Light. I bet that it's the exact same two-piece Volo Light sole plate that they had for the Volos. It looks exactly the same. They might have modified it a little bit, or maybe they built this shell to match the Volo Light signature or the footprint. I don't know. I know that it slid really nicely though. Soul tricks were a breeze. They felt amazing. Royale tricks were amazing. Anything having to do with soul tricks or boot tricks really felt great. I really liked these for grinding. This groove, this little backslide groove, it's perfect. It's just this little divot. You don't need this huge, wide one like the rollerblade New Jacks have. Just a little thing here to keep you from slipping out. You want a little bit, you don't want too much. And this was, for me, the right amount. The angle that it created was really nice. I actually didn't mind these frames. I think that they were fine. They felt a little heavy to me, but they were okay. I did wish that this had a bit more of a pre-groove. It does have a pre-groove. You can kind of see it. There's, the groove itself, and then there's the little, like the chamfer, I guess. I wish that was a little deeper. That's the way that I like them. I think the balance frames has them, the wish frames, the Aeons. Most frames have them like that nowadays. This is very like, here's your groove, and that's it. So I wish that was a little bit more broken in, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it was good. It was a good skate. I really enjoyed the session. Did run into a few problems. So the first was the sizing was really weird. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit. I actually brought out my ruler so that I can measure. But the sizing felt awkward. Lengthwise, it felt fine. It just felt really wide. It felt like my foot was sliding around a lot within the boot, and that definitely wasn't a good feeling. You know, I don't know if my foot is wide or not. I should probably measure my foot, but I don't know if my foot is wide or not, but it's always a 28.5. Like, that's my length, and I never have a problem fitting into a 28.5, which is usually a size 44 skate. This one, similar issue. You know, I didn't have any problem fitting in. It felt great toe to heel. The liner feels amazing. It's a nice squishy liner. I really, really like the liner. One thing that Roces does extremely well is their liners. And, you know, this is no exception. They did a great job with this. But I felt like my foot was moving around inside the boot. Like it was kind of moving left and right, which was a very weird feeling. Like if you imagine skating shadows, if you ever skated shadows, you would know. If you ever skated shadows and you didn't tighten up that middle strap, and your foot kind of slid around on the base, that's kind of what it felt like. And that was just extremely distracting. I felt, you know, when I was doing airs, I would kind of land, and if I didn't stomp it perfectly, I would kind of slide out, and I felt like I could hurt my ankles. So I got to skate these again and see if that was me. Maybe I need to lace them a little differently. Maybe I need to buckle the buckle a little bit more. This memory buckle is great. I love the memory buckles, but it does take a little bit of adjustment until you figure out what your setting is. For me, I felt like it was fine, but I did adjust it a few times during the session. I don't know what I'm going to end up with. But yeah, the fit was the biggest problem. I was not a fan of the fit. The other problem was the wheels. So, I mean, they're stock wheels, so I don't know that you expect too much, but these wheels are so hard. They just felt so hard. I mean, maybe because I'm used to skating 88s and 85s, you know, these are 93s. And maybe if I got used to them, I would feel fine, but they just felt really hard for me. I think that 93 is too hard for an aggressive wheel, at least on the outsides. You know, if you were riding a flat setup and you had like a 93 on the inside and an 88 on the outside, maybe even a 90 on the outside, I think you'd be fine. But these just felt really hard. The profile is, you know, the face profile that we use on our 58s. It's very similar to it. It's a little different. I think because this is a 60 mil, the angle on their their wheel is a little different than the angle on ours, but not by much. It's a very similar feeling, but you know, you got to add 2 mil to it. So slightly different, but very similar. Yeah, it was just the hardness that was the problem. I also noticed that the wheels weren't even. So again, this might just be a manufacturing defect, but when you roll the wheel, I can see one like edge kind of go up and down. Like the pour was a little off. It was very weird. I don't know. I mean, they're stock wheels, so I feel like they're better than some stock wheels that I've skated, but they're not great. So after skating them, I said, you know, I'm going to swap out the wheels. I want to skate those 58s that I had. And instead of just swapping out the wheels, I just put the old frames on again. So I'm skating these 50-50 balance frames now on the fifth elements. These are riding the 88A wheels, the 5888s that I really liked. Still any rocker. I'm riding juice blocks. I'm riding with balance frames. One thing that I found with these balance frames, so the UFS standard is the frame needs to be 41 millimeters from wall to wall. Uh-oh, it looks like I'm lagging a little bit on the live stream. Apologize, guys, if it's a little laggy. It's probably overheating because of this heat wave. So if the audio still works, that's great. I might have a little bit of frame stutter on the live stream, but see if it cleans up. Anyway, so I put balance frames on here, and I had a hard time fitting them. So I measured, and it looks like the sole, like the channel for the sole, is 40 millimeters. The UFS frame, the standard, is 41 millimeters, and the 50-50 frames are 41 millimeters, maybe even a little bit larger. And they usually recommended back in the days that the soles were like 42 millimeters. So what I had to do is I had to cut a little angle on the edge of one of these sole plates, just so that I could squeeze it in there. And then I started tightening the bolts. And as soon as I tightened the bolts, they would pop in and they'd fit fine. But that was a little unexpected. You know, I don't know, UFS is such a weird lost cause, I guess. I'm eternally grateful that it's still a thing and that I can still skate the balance frames that I designed in 2000. But it would have been nice if it was better documented and if more people followed the standard and could find the standard so that they could follow the standard. Because it's kind of, people are looking at skates, I'm sure, and measuring them and saying, oh yeah, it's probably this. And they probably said 40, that makes sense. 41 is a weird number, why would it be 41? Well, because it's 41, but that's, if nobody wrote it down, then it's hard to say. So just a quick tip for anybody buying these and wanting to put on balance frames or any other UFS standard frames. You might have a tight squeeze in there. I had the same problem with the Seba sole plates. It's just a 41 millimeter channel is needed, and if it isn't there, you're gonna have to shave the sole plate a little bit. Not the end of the world, just an unexpected event. All right, any questions on the Fifth Element that I can answer? I really enjoy skating these. I'm going to skate them again, hopefully this weekend. Maybe not, maybe next weekend. But they were great skates. I really enjoyed skating them. I want to try them with balance frames. Loved the grind. The grind on these skates was so much fun. The sole felt solid. It's nice and wide. The Royale felt amazing. I was royaling everything that I wanted. Absolutely felt confident and solid on these skates. If you're interested in getting something for grinder blading, these are probably a really good setup to look into. All right, I'm going to check some of the comments and see if there's anything going on for the Fifth Elements. All right. People are asking about sizing, so I'm just going to get right into that. Let me take a little drink because it's so friggin' hot in here. All right. So sizing. Sizing was a big question for these Fifth Elements, and I got so I was adding to this. There was a bit of confusion from the Roces social media account. They posted an image that had a comparison chart between the Majestic 12 and the Fifth Element. And it didn't make a ton of sense. Like on some, they said that, oh, if you skate this size Majestic 12, you should get this size Fifth Element. And some of the charts for me, needing a 28.5 44, were recommending that I get a 42. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like my foot won't even fit in there. Why would I get a 42? If my foot is 28.5 centimeters, this liner, this 44 liner is 28.5 centimeters. Why would I get something that's smaller? I mean, a 42 is probably, 27.5, something like that? It's much smaller. So I didn't understand what they were getting at. So I wanted to do a little research and see where the measurements actually were. And reminder, I just have this one boot. So this is the size 43, 44. This is the size 10 and 10.5 boot. The liner itself, so this is what the liner looks like. It's just a standard, nice looking leather sort of liner. It's got the neoprene in the front, so you can get yourself a few mil of wiggle room if your foot is a little bigger. It does have a pretty beefy insole, which means that your foot's going to fill out this liner pretty thick. Fill out this liner pretty well. It's very thick. Which isn't a bad thing, but you could definitely downsize this insole, get a little less shock absorption, but it'll feel a little more roomy in there. The problem is, how big is it? And I didn't really have a good way of measuring that. It's really easy to measure your foot. You take a ruler and you step on it. And you make sure that your heel is lined up to the back of the ruler. And that's really about it. You could find out how long your foot is, and then you try to get skates that fit that length. So you could do the same for this, and I look at this liner. It's hard to measure the inside, but I can measure the outside. And I have my ruler here, and I just put it down, and I measure that the liner itself is 29.2 or so, which makes sense. I've got the neoprene in the front, so I don't have to worry about the exact measurement here. This back area, it's probably about 5 mil. No, yeah, about 5 mil thick. So I mean, this is perfect, right? So you assume that the thickness of a liner is 5 mil. It's really easy to measure that. But how do you do a boot? And how do you figure out how thick this is and how thick this is without taking the whole thing apart and cutting it? Well, I did some research on the internet and I found this crazy measuring tool. So check this thing out. So this thing is a plus 12. It's called a plus 12. It is, for those of you just listening, it is a, geez, there's a big lag. I'm sorry for the delay on the video, guys. So this thing is a plus 12. It will measure your foot. It will measure the inside of a shoe. It was developed by the government in Austria, who had a grant for a company to design something. They had a concern that children's shoes weren't properly designed. So when a children's shoe was listed as a size 8, it could be all over the place. And they wanted to make sure that when a child was getting the right shoe, they could fit the shoe that their foot was supposed to fit. And they wanted to make sure that there was a standard on sizing so that kids didn't wear shoes that were too small for them. This thing is fascinating. So this little red thing actually slides out. So you've got this in your heel. The red thing slides out. So it's an angle iron. It's an angle, sorry, like a right angle made of blue plastic. And that is where your heel is. Then there's this red tip that slides out and it's attached to a tape measure. So the tape measure runs through the blue plastic. And as you slide out the red tip, you can measure, you can see what the measurement is from the heel of the blue plastic to the tip of the red tip. And this will allow you to measure the inside of a shoe. You can also measure your foot. And the reason why it's called a plus 12 is that there's another 12 millimeters right at the tip here. And that's where they say that kids need the 12 millimeters of wiggle room in front of their toes so that they don't wear shoes that are too tight. Because you don't want to wear the shoe that's your exact size. You want to wear a shoe that's a little bit bigger. They found that 12 millimeters was the size that they wanted. So this will measure plus 12. That's where the name comes from. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to measure this size 44 Fifth Element and see what the size was in millimeters. And then I'm going to do the same for some of the other skates that I have here and see if there's anything weird about this Fifth Element. You know, the way that they are approaching it on social media, they're saying that, you know, the sizing is completely different. I have a pair of size 10.5 Majestic 12s. I'm going to measure them and I'm going to see what the real difference is. So, getting started. So this is the Fifth Element. This is the UFS Fifth Element that just came out. I'm going to put this in the back. Slide it all the way to the back. Push it all the way down. All right, sliding it, sliding it, sliding it. There, all right. So this is all the way in. And this measures 292 from the inside to the toe, which is probably, let's see, so this is plus 12. I have my ruler as well. Let me measure this and compare it with my ruler. All right, so it's about the same measurement as with the ruler. 290 or so, give or take. It actually measured a little higher, so it says that it's like 295, which would make sense. That's the same length as the liner. Let's measure the width. I don't know that I could fit this thing in here. I did bring a tape measure though, so I'm going to measure the width with this tape measure and see what's going on. All right. The width of the Fifth Element. So this is in the wide spot towards the toes. Looks to be very unscientific. Looks to be around 90 or so millimeters. That sounds about right. So that's like 3.5 inches or so. All right, so that was 29. Should be writing this down. Let me write this down real quick. All right, so that was 29.5. Where's my note? There it is. All right, so 29.5 for the length. And what did I say? 2.5. It was 90. Yeah, that was right. 3.5, so 90 width. All right, so that's the fifth element. Let's measure the Majestic 12. So for reference, this is actually the Volo V13. This is the Alex Brosco Midnight. This was the last Volo skate that they made. Actual Volo, so should give a good comparison. This, one of the classics, measuring with my silly ruler. And this is the size 44, so I'm going to push it out and see where I'm at. Oops. Get in the heel. All right, nothing better than listening to somebody measure. All right, get out of there. All right, so this measurement, oh, very interesting. This measurement came in at 28,280. So it measured the fifth element, the Majestic 12. I'm getting lost in the numbers. The Majestic 12 actually measured a little longer, shorter. Let me measure it again just to make sure that seems wrong. Get in there. All right, let's see if this one measured right. Dang it, I keep getting stuck in the laces when I'm pulling the thing out. Let me try one more time. This thing is not designed for skate measuring, but it sure is cool. All right, there we go. So yeah, this measured at 2280. So this is definitely, this is like 10 mil shorter. So this Majestic 12 is like 10 mil shorter, which is super interesting. Let me check out the width of this thing. All right, so I'm going to shove this tape measure in there, get the widest spot that I can find. Now remember, on the fifth element they were 90 millimeters. Let's see what this one is. Get in here. It's like 85, so it's a little less. Again, this is very not scientific. This is just me looking at the looking at the ruler and seeing what I come up with. Let me check my my USD 7s and see what I come up with. So these USD 7s, same deal. These are a size 44 shell. These are all 44s, so it should be fairly standard, right? That's what you would think. All right. So, measuring this, I'm at almost 300. So this USD 7 is longer than the Majestic, or the fifth element, by a little bit. So let's say 29.8. Looks pretty close. And let me check the width. These skates are the ones that are my favorite. These are the ones that fit great. And if you use a liner, I mean, it's pretty obvious. If you have a 28.5 foot, you want about 10 mil so that you can have 5 mil of liner. So you would want something that's around 29.5. All right, let's measure the inside of this. All right. Looking in there, it's about the same. It was at like almost 85, 90. So it's a little less wide than the fifth element, but it's very close. So that's the question, right? Why would the Majestic 12 be a whole 15 mil shorter than the fifth element if they're the same size? It makes no sense. The widths are very strange with this skate. I don't understand it. I don't know if it's bad marketing. I don't know if they should relabel things, but it seems like, for me, looking at these numbers, this is the right size for me. I don't know why I'm getting that width wiggle, that lateral movement. You know what I might think? So one thing that I'm looking at now, the big difference between this USD 7 and the Fifth Element. Obviously the little styling is different, but the widths look very similar. The biggest change that I see is that the insole of the USD 7 has this riser sort of material that is not really the insole. It's kind of like the liner that goes under the boot, and it's rough. It's almost like cardboard. The Fifth Element has nothing. So all it is leather on this fast material, this fast plastic. So I'm wondering if that slide that I'm getting, that lateral movement that I'm getting inside the boot, could be remedied by having something that doesn't slide in there. Maybe that's it. I don't know that my foot is sliding around inside the liner though. You know what I should probably do is I should probably try the MyFit liners in these boots and see if I get a similar slide. I wonder if that would cause the problem, because if it's the liner, then that's fairly easily fixed. You wouldn't think that the shell would be a problem, and we just measured, and it doesn't look like the shell is that much different than the USD 7. And the USD 7 fits me perfectly. So I don't know what the problem is. I don't know why I got that lateral feeling in there. It could be the way that this boot itself, maybe the boot is taller where it laces up, and I might be able to fix that by lacing it a little tighter, cinching down my foot so that it doesn't move around as much. But I don't know. I really liked the feeling that I got when I was on grinds, and I really want to keep skating these skates. I think that these are going to be a really great skate for anybody out there doing grinder blading. I think that the low cuff, I think that the squishy top, they were definitely not as stiff as my USD 7s. The squishy top is going to feel great. The sole plate is probably almost as good as the USD 7 sole plate. It felt a lot more solid, whereas the USD 7 sole plate kind of had this like a glassy feeling, like you were kind of floating on top of the ledge, which isn't a bad feeling, but it was very different. This felt kind of like a balance frame to me, where I was able to just kind of squat down and push down on my Royale foot, and I felt like it was just smoothly taking me across the ledge, rather than me just kind of floating on top. I really prefer that feeling over the USD 7, but if it doesn't fit, I can't skate these skates. So I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to hopefully get out this weekend, maybe sometime next week. I don't know how the weekend's going to go, but I will report back. Anybody else who has these skates, I would love to hear your feedback. Please get in touch. Find me on the Instagram, or post a comment on the YouTube, and let me know what you think. My preference is that the skates fit me better, but other than that, I feel like the skates are fine. And I don't know that they fit me right. I don't know that they fit. I mean, that's the biggest problem that people are complaining about, that they don't fit right. And I got to figure out why. So anybody out there who has them, who has theories on why they don't fit right, I would love to hear. We just measured, and they measure up pretty close to where the USD 7s are. They're different than the Majestic 12s, but they're a pretty standard size skate. So I think this is probably a really good size skate for most people. I think you should order the size that your foot is. I don't think you should listen to Roces when they say, order this size if you're this size, order this size if you're this size. Just go with what you're supposed to ride. That's what I did. And although I'm getting some weird movement laterally, I feel absolutely fine lengthwise. All right, I'm going to get a little bit more water, and then I'm going to check the comments and see if there's any questions that I can answer. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. I know that I don't know if it's my laptop that's lagging, but I'm definitely having some weird lag with the live stream. Apologize if the video isn't syncing up properly. Something's going on. I don't know if my computer's overheating or what, but it was 100 degrees outside today. It is 92 right now, and it's 9:41. So definitely in the worst part of the summer out here in North Carolina. That's what we deal with. Just chugging water, just downing it. All right. Let me take a look at some of the comments and see if there's any good questions. Remember, if you do have a question, please tag me in it so that I can see it really quickly. Jeff, good to see you on the live. If you didn't already talk about it, where would you rank these with your grinder blades? It's a good question. So my favorite grinder blades, I probably have like my top 5. The USD 7, obviously, that's probably my all-around favorite UFS skate. The USD Aeon 60, absolutely love those skates. I don't know that I would consider them grinder blader skates, but they definitely, I can do all of my tricks in them, so maybe they are grinder blader skates. The Them 908s are great grinder blader skates. The only negative to that is, the sole is a little thinner. That's fine for most people. For me, I like to have a little bigger sole just so that I have a little bit more room. I know that I can land better on soles. I don't. And I don't like missing and slipping out. So if the sole was a little wider, if you were riding king soles, for example, amazing skates. What else? Grinder bladers. That might be it. Yeah, of the skates that I have that I really liked. I think I skated the V13s pretty well, but the fit was a little weird. It felt really squishy, and I wasn't really a huge fan of them, but I think I was grinding pretty well. I was grinding pretty well in the shifts. I was grinding pretty well in the shadows, but neither of those really felt good for skating. So if it's just grinder blading and just skating ledges, those would have to be in there, but I think all around, take them to a skate park and spend a day on the mini ramp and on the ledges and stuff like that, I wouldn't want to do that with those skates. As far as the Majestic 12 or the Fifth Element, it's really hard to say so far. I feel like the Royale really has its merits. This groove is really great, and this material is really great. I felt super confident doing Royale tricks, and that is saying something. I've skated a lot of skates, and the Royale is always the one that throws me off. Sole grinds are usually pretty consistent. No matter what skate, you can usually do a fairly, comfortable sole grind Mizu or whatever. But a Royale is very different. And I've skated so many skates that I know how to Royale in each of the skates that I've done, and these are the ones that come very natural to me. The groove is lined up perfectly, just straight in line with the groove of the frame. The little divot is very shallow, so it doesn't have this, it doesn't force you to get down super low. Although I felt like I was getting pretty low in my Royale, I didn't have to get super low, which was a good feeling. The soles were great. I really loved the soles. They felt big, they felt fast. They are raised in 2 areas, so this middle area around the groove is actually a little lower. So that means that the points of contact are in the front and in the back where they mount to the sole, where they mount to the boot. So it's a really nice, very low, what do I want to say? Doesn't have a lot of resistance. So it's a really good design. I mean, there's a reason why they skated them for so many years on the Valo Light. This is a really great sole plate. So as for grinder blading, I think that if they fit you good, I think that you'll really like them. Where would I rank them? It's a little early to tell. They're definitely in my top 5, though. I don't know that they're better than my Aeons. I don't know that they're better than the 908s out of the box. They might be comparable to a 908. The balance between the two, the 908 has a great Royale as well. The sole is a little lacking for me. This has the great Royale and a great sole, but the fit is a little lacking. So I don't know. I like the fit in the 908s better, and ultimately that's probably what's most important to me. Guamtech, would you say the dual injection mold is similar to the Flying Eagle dual injections? Absolutely. It is a very similar feeling. This Flying Eagle feels less squishy. God, how light these are. I forgot my scale. I don't think I have a scale out here. But these Flying Eagle skates are so friggin' light compared to any other skate that I have. They're really great. Yeah, this dual injection, I feel like this is not as thin. This plastic that they use for the lacing area is a little thicker than the ones with the Roces. It also doesn't come down as far. So this Roces really comes down far. So this dual injection is really, really low. And that's really nice because it means that there's a lot of thin plastic up there that you can squish over. This one, you know, with the Flying Eagle, if it came down a little bit lower, it would probably offer the same feeling. For me, the dual injection doesn't make a huge difference on the Flying Eagle, not as much as it does on the Fifth Element. Scott, wish you could have the opinion of someone who rode the original fifths and compare it to these. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I do have a pair of the original fifths here. So these are the original fifths. They might be the second generation fifths. I don't remember this groove in the original. I think it was more of a cutout. This groove is kind of an angled. So this might be a reissue of the fifth. But these were... See how heavy they are? These are lighter. Oh my god. These new fifths feel heavier than these old fifths, which is saying something. From a aesthetics perspective, this, again, I don't know that this was the new fifth. This is definitely a wider cut on the inside. This is like you could fit a ton of different tongues in here if you wanted, if you were Josh Petty or whatever, double stuffing. Yeah, I mean, really, it's just inspired by the fifth. I don't think it's the fifth. It's a very different skate altogether. Gosh, the cuff looks exactly the same, doesn't it? Looks like the same cuff. Same low cut. This one is this is a low cut. This is a taller cuff, but the styling is the same. The buckle protection is the same. It looks very similar. They did a really good job with this. I think it's a really great looking skate. A lot of things that I would change to make it a little better, and the sizing I think is the biggest problem, but it sure looks great side to side with the old ones. And I think that this is just a classic look. Oh, the logo's a little different. Weird. Why would they change that? You can see the way that the logo was painted. It's the same outline, but for some reason the colors are different in different shades. I don't know why they would do that. Maybe they just didn't see it. But I did. Anyway, yeah, I never skated the original Fifth Elements. These are a little big, I think. What size are these? I don't have a size on them. I think these are bigger ones, though. I never skated them. I know that they were a little heavier than I was used to. But yeah, they look great. I mean, I'd love to have somebody who's currently skating them try skating the new Fifth Elements and just, you know, see what they're like. But to be honest, I don't think that there's much of a comparison. I think that the new Fifth Elements are their own thing. It's just inspired by the original. Hardcore inliner. I remember when the stock wheels were all you were getting. I remember when the stock wheels were all you were getting. I remember when the stock wheels were all you were getting. Okay, so yes, so you weren't buying extra wheels because your parents weren't buying them. Totally get that. These ones on the Fifth Elements, they were okay. They were just too hard for me. Like 93A, I think it's going to last a long time, but it's not a good feeling. You know, I prefer something a little softer. Even 90A would be better than this. It just felt so hard. It felt like I was skating on rocks. And that wasn't a good feeling, especially skating anti-rocker. Like if this was a flat setup like the Nils Janssen, that would be a different story. And then, you know, you could switch them around if you wanted, but if it came flat, that would be a really great skate. I wish that it came flat. I wish that they didn't give it anti-rocker. I don't know why they did that, but save costs, I'm sure, but would have been nicer flat. Right. Brian, if you still have the 908, can you measure the boot length? I can. Let me see. I have them up here. let me see what this measurement is. So I still have the measurements for the fifths. Let me measure this one. So again, I'm using this plus 12. Again, the numbers aren't going to be super accurate, but at least we can see what they're like in relation to the other skates. Let's slide this thing all the way in. All right, this again is a 44 boot. And so the 908s is smaller. So this is like 28.5. The 908 feels almost like, so looking at the numbers, the 908 is a little bit longer than the Majestic 12 was, but it's not quite as long as the others, which makes sense. You know, people downsize the 908s a lot. Let me measure the width a little bit. See if I can get myself in there and measure it. And yeah, the width is about the same. Yeah, the width is the same. It's like 90. It's interesting. Most of the widths are very similar from all these 44 skates. It's the length that's a little different. And you could be off by, you know, 5 to 10 mil. And it makes a huge difference, you know, whether you're sliding around or not. Dude with a face, all right? That could be any one of you. Other than the USD 7s, since you can't seem to find them anymore, what would be your choice for the best $200 to $250 complete UFS skate? So first of all, yeah, the USD 7, that's a sad story. I absolutely love the USD 7. I think that it's a really good skate for the price. But I don't know that they're making them anymore. There was a video on the Instagram that Nick Lomax uploaded, I think, where they were at some power slide meeting or whatever, and Matthias was up there talking about the USD 7. No, he was talking about the Sway, and he said that the Sway is their new, like, low-end aggressive, which makes sense. It's a good boot, and now that they have the Zoom with the little Trinity adapter, you can switch from aggressive to big wheel. And again, that totally makes sense. Powerslide's a business. They need to make the skates that are going to be more for the direction of the company. And there's no doubt that big wheeling and tri-skates are the direction of Powerslide. But they did say that it was that the USD 7 isn't being made. I don't know what that meant. I don't know if it meant that it was never being made. I never say never in the skate industry because things pop up all the time. But I don't have a good feeling about the USD 7 supply for this year. I did email Matthias last month and asked him, and he said that there was nothing to announce. They didn't have any plans to discontinue the 7, but that doesn't mean that they're making them right now. You can always find the Roman Abrate skate. I know that it's not ideal. I know that it's more expensive, but it is a USD 7. It's going to give you a very similar feeling. Might be a little bit heavier. Again, might be a little bit pricier, but you'll still get a really good ride. If you're just looking for the USD 7 sole plate, the new Michael Prado Gods skate just came out. Again, it's not going to be the $200 complete that you're looking for. I think they're like 400 boot only. No, 300 boot only. 300 boot only. So it's a very expensive skate compared to the complete 7 that you could get for $220. But I don't know that that's an option anymore. If you were looking for a $200 to $220 complete, I mean, if you didn't care about UFS, it's the Aeon 60 Basic all day. I think the Aeon 60 Basic is an amazing skate for the price. I think they're $220 retail. You can't beat that. I mean, it comes with 8 wheels. It's a USD Aeon 60 with a slightly crappy liner, slightly crappy wheels, but I mean, that's an amazing price. I would probably recommend I have to skate them again, but probably the Razors SL. I think the Razors SL is, you know, I overlook it a lot, probably because I shifted I focused my attention to the shift as the Razors skate that was getting the attention. And that's probably not the only skate that Razors has. I don't know that the shift is as popular as the SL, especially for the price. You get an SL complete for $220. That's a great skate. That's what John Fromm skates. You see a lot of people skating Razors SLs. The SL has the internal shock absorber. It is a flat skate. It is everything that the 7 had that I really liked. The only exception is the sole plate isn't as good. You know, it's a fairly okay sole plate, but it's not as good as the USD 7 sole plate. I think the USD 7 sole plate is the best sole plate. There's a reason why Michael Prado wanted to put it on his God skates. There's a reason why they're using it on the Roman Abrate skate. That is an amazing sole plate, and that is worth finding a skate that can use that sole plate. But if you're just looking, you know, for 220 complete, I think the Razors SL is probably the skate to get. I need to get another pair and skate them again. It's been a long time since I've skated Razors, and I've skated so many skates since I skated the Razors Shift. I really need to get back into the Razors camp and just see what they feel like again. Razor SL better than the Rollerblade New Jack Pros, dude with a face. Yeah, absolutely. So where are my New Jacks? So these are the New Jack teams. The New Jack teams, these are pretty light. How heavy? I need to get my scale for next one. They feel almost the same as these fifths, guys. I don't think these fifths are very light. I need to measure them. These are the New Jack teams. The New Jack Pros are green. They feature better wheels, hydrogen wheels. These are cheap New Jack wheels, but they were pretty good. Same frames. I think they come with the same grind wheels. They come with a blank liner. These are generic liners, but they still feel really good. So for all intents and purposes, the New Jack team is the same as the New Jack Pro. Huge problems with the New Jack team. First of all, is that the heel lift is insane. So the insole that comes with this thing, I actually took out and I switched. The heel lift makes you feel like you're falling forward. So it's like you're stubbing your toe after every stride. That might be okay for some people, especially after you get used to it. For me, I could never get used to it. I had to switch out the insoles, and that was a big problem. The Royale groove of this thing is weird. So it's really wide and it's deep. So it actually goes deeper than your foot. It goes inside. You can kind of see it if you're on the live chat. You can kind of see it going inside the sole area. And the problem with that is that the angle, so I'll get my... So I have this little PVC pipe. The problem is that the angle that you get has to be so steep. I'll put this rail flat. So this is the angle that you have to get with the stock setup for the New Jack team. That's really steep. Compare that to the Fifth Element. Let me, yeah, I'll use this one. So this is with balance frames, which is a low profile frame, but because this Fifth Element sole plate comes out wide and the groove isn't very deep, you don't have to get as low to balance a Royale. Like you can get, I mean, that's not even 45 degrees and you could be boot down on a Royale. That was a huge problem for me. And I really didn't like that about the New Jacks. I felt like the New Jacks were maybe a vert skate. You know, they felt like they had a lot of good, because they had that 45 degree strap, they had a lot of good ankle support. And I felt like that was really nice if you were skating vert. It had a really wide sole, so I felt like you could do some good sole tricks. And I felt like I was pretty confident in my sole tricks. I don't know that I ever did topsides with them. I don't know that I ever did. No, I think I learned kind grinds with them. But I felt like it wasn't a very good skate for skating. So I would definitely recommend, if you were looking for an all-around skate, I would recommend getting the 908s over the New Jacks. If you, for whatever reason, had a, like if there was a special reason, like they meant something to you back in the days, like you skated the TRS Access or the .8s or something like that, then yeah, get some New Jacks. And they're fine skates. I mean, they're fine, but if you listen to the the latest Jump Street podcast with Sean, what's his name? I forgot his last name. He skates for Rollerblade. He skates solos, and he has a lot of solos, and he loves his solos. He's tried skating the New Jacks, and it just doesn't feel right to him. There's a reason for that. They just don't feel right. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't recommend it. There's a reason we don't see that many people skating them. I think that some tricks are really hard in them, and at our age, we're not looking to challenge ourselves with skates. I want to challenge myself with obstacles. I want to challenge myself progressing, but I don't need anything that's going to make skating more difficult. I will get the scale for next time. I apologize. I can't go inside or the dogs are going to go crazy and I won't be able to come back out. All right, I think I am done. The heat out here is crazy, and I feel like my laptop is going to burst into flames. We're at about an hour, so that's probably not bad. My voice is starting to go, and I'm drinking all of my water, and I'm out. So this is summer. Thank you all for joining me this week. It's been great. I apologize for the technical issues. It's what happens in summer out here in North Carolina. I'm going to try to fix it. I don't know that I can, but I'll do my best for next time. We are recording the podcast this weekend. Everybody who's listening has homework. Watch The Aggressives. If you haven't seen it yet, it is the movie from South Korea that they shot back in the mid-2000s. It's a full-length movie. You can find a link in the show notes of backtobullying.com/podcast. It was in the last video, the one that Ben and I did with Drew. You got to watch the video. I'm going to be watching it tomorrow. Super important that you can follow along. We're going to be talking about the movie during the podcast. So make sure that you watch it. And we're going to be recording this weekend. So make sure you listen to the podcast on Monday. Everybody get out and skate. Thank you all for participating in Blading Community. We're going to be announcing the next Blading Community Challenge on Thursday of next week. The backsides are all in, and I'm going to be doing the edit tomorrow. So it should go live on Friday. Thank you all for participating. Backside is a hard trick. I promise that next month you'll be able to do the trick no matter what skates you have. You could even do it in quads. I don't care. It's going to be a great trick for everybody to be included in. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.